All right, it looks like we're back into the very thing. I know it's been a bit since I made a video. A little over a week, actually going off week and a half, which is not usually what I do here, right? Not at all, but had some things I had to take care of and kind of do that I had to really take care of to get this done. And so I'm back and I'm trying to really uh kind of go a certain way with this. Um, Definitely, welcome in. I'm going live on the YouTube platform. And what I mean by that is we here, as you can see, the beginning, what the name of this is. Definitely, we are going to get into the Gnostic book of Adam, the apocalypse of Adam, and get another view. You know, it's very interesting when we start looking at things just a little bit differently, right? And take it in a very different way, how things end up being. And when we get our glasses on, kind of like Roddy Piper did in that movie, right? He got his glasses on, and God, what was the name of that movie? It's one of the best movies. They Live. He was able to get another perception and eyesight to things that would take his change his perspective, specs, right? Oculus, um, to make changes or see things a little different. And why I'm saying that is I haven't been here for that, but why I'm saying this, we're going to look at the apocalypse of Adam. Also, we're going to talk about how because my last videos, when you go on the share, we really went deep in onto a lot of other stuff about what's happening outside of us in the world, right? With all the shows that were given and the media throwing so much at us, and you notice it's like everything's happening at once now, right? I know you guys notice that. We see immigration, we seen a wall, we seen the border open, we seen all this stuff. Now we see ice all over the place. That we're told a lot of stuff that's on social media isn't what I see when I go out in the world. What I mean by that, people and their attitudes, I don't always see what we're being told everybody is, because we're being told everybody hates each other, everybody's against each other, and just the divide and conquer mindset we're pushed through. So I decided I'm going to do a couple of videos, just go in the spiritual zone, not really go too much. I probably will a little bit when we read some of this. And also, I'm totally on YouTube. I have left Riverside. I have not picked up another platform. I know you can share pages here. I just hope that you guys can see the pages I'm going to share, because I am going to share the apocalypse of Adam, and I'm going to use gnosis.org to share this. We're going to read a little bit and talk about it and discuss this. But it's good you're here. I kind of went in on a lot of different things that were happening in the prior videos, my recent ones. We went in on all the things that they're saying and not saying, um, all the divide and conquer, how the whole world's a stage. I mean, I'm seeing the actors everywhere. Really be aware. I mean, I even did digital ID. I mean, just be aware. It's a time to suck it up and definitely be connected to the inner part. So I'm not going to dwell on the outside about what's being done outside of us by the system and how they're we talk. You can go watch that. I'm going to share um, a little gnosis.org. We're going to read some of this. Yes, sir. So I hope you can see me. I don't think here I can maneuver. I do have to go to the other page to maneuver. It looks like you guys could see, which is cool with me, right? Um, and maneuver. I'll go back and forth because I noticed my last video on YouTube, as you can share pages, wasn't the same as when I was showing something on another screen when I was doing another video. And I was like, I'm reading something that you guys are not able to see. I'm hoping you guys can see this. But anyways, so this, as we know, these texts were found in 1945. If you're new here, they were part of what was found in Egypt. Men were up there digging, hit the clay pots, opened it, and had these books come out, and the Nag Hammadi library. This, and then it was named Gnostic. That's not what they called themselves. But as we go farther, we're going to see. We know, if you don't know, and now you're aware of these gospels, um, the first and second, third centuries, Christianity wasn't held like we see it now into groups with power over it to persuade. It was pretty much open season. Different groups believed different things and had different things going on. There's all kinds of books that are being held out, right, that are not in it, that were held out once we get into 325 AD and after, with the Council of Nicaea, as the political move goes into power to create a one world Christian, but a Christian, Christianity's adopted by and then it's called the Roman Catholic Church. Notice it's called the Roman because it's really telling you what you need to know when you say Roman, because there is no Roman no more, what we were told. But I'm telling you, it's been alive and well. The same bloodlines transferred from the Roman Empire into the Roman Catholic Church to remain power, and it was all done for political. But those first, second, third there was different things, and one of the biggest groups that was their challengers that weren't bringing wasn't bringing orthodox, which would come later, was the Gnostic Gospels, that they ended up burning, destroying, and murdering them because they didn't want anything to prohibit their political power and move. I'll say that, and we'll read some of this, but this is Apocalypse of Adam. The revelation of Adam taught his son Seth in the 700th year, saying, "Listen to my words, my son. When God had created me out of the earth, along with Eve, your mother, I went about with her in glory, which she had seen in the eon which we had come forth. She taught me a word of knowledge of the eternal God, and we reassembled the great eternal angels, for we were higher than God who created us, and the powers with him whom we did not know." So really, in the story and the other stories, if you read some of the other books, what this is saying is they came from another space. This does not go with jive with your traditional Christianity. It finds the holes in it, and this goes into higher spaces, but it's not seen as that. He says we were great. We were made higher than the God that created their physical body, right? The physical body. Let me go back into here. I want to see what this shows. Okay. So I hope you guys can see it. She taught me a word of knowledge. So what he's really saying is the God of this world, or the God they're referring to, is Yada Baoth in the Gnostic Gospels. Yada Baoth. Yada Baoth. A nice way to say he's the Old Testament God. He's also called some other names, Sakila, in another book. I think Sakila is mentioned in this book. The Demiurge, which actually means a very ignorant, not knowledgeable God who is limited in his knowledge, and says he's the only wise and true God. But in this aspect, it's really telling you he isn't the one. And when he says he's a jealous God, he's really jealous of the beings in the higher realm, that we as a created our beings, we hold the light from a higher realm of the true God and the true region of coming from a higher space of unity, love, and togetherness and oneness, not divide and conquer and jealousy and chaos, murder, rape, pillage, and war that we see on this realm over and over and over. We can dissect some of the Old Testament. We can go into that. So let's talk about that. So he mentions that then the God or ruler of the eons of the powers divided us in wrath. Then we became two eons, and the glory of our hearts left us, me and your mother Eve, along with the first knowledge that breathed within us. So that first knowledge and need, Eve, is actually would be Sophia. Eve is actually the body of Sophia, or the manifestation of Sophia. In the story, what he's saying is, in his wrath, right? He said they're divided. The God, the ruler of the eons and powers, divided us in wrath. The ruler and powers goes to the print that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principle in the New Testament, right? Powers in the high place wrestle not against flesh and blood, but rulers of darkness in high places. So really what this is saying is the God that you really are following is one that always requires blood sacrifice, always gets jealous, angry and wrath, will tell you one thing and do another. And actually, even then, even tells you that he created you for his own purpose, and that he created dark and light and good and evil for his purpose, and to do what he wants. And then, as you see as we go farther and farther and delve into that, wars and all that stuff follow him, um, telling him you're not supposed to do this, but then telling him to go kill them all after it's one of the 10 commandments. Then turns around and says, "Go kill them all." Right. So this is really what this is really saying is then we became two eons, meaning the spirit realm of Adam and Eve were like one light, feminine and masculine energy being one. But then what happened was, through this process, this God divided them, and they became two separate people and manifested as people. The one became two, right? The one became two. The dividing is already happening. He divided us in his wrath. And remember, this is a wrathful God that's always asking for something. Um, Always dividing and conquering, right? We see that even now. Um, the ruler, the archons of this material world, and the glory of our hearts left us, me and your mother Eve, along with the first knowledge that breathed within us. That first knowledge of the breathing within is actually aspects of Sophia giving them life, because in the gnostic creation story, he made bodies but couldn't put spirit in them because he had no access, because he's a limited, ignorant, unwise God who thinks he is the only one, but actually probably deep down no, he's not, because he's actually created through a process that divided him, and almost like aborted fetus it talks about. See? And the knowledge, so the forgetfulness, right? He said, our hearts, the glory of our hearts left us, me and your mother, along with the first knowledge. So when you say the first knowledge left us, the heart left them, me and your mother Eve, along with the first knowledge that was breathed within us. That means the forgetfulness or the amnesia is sitting in of who are you, where did you come from, and who really you are. The material world is separating you into a place of forgetfulness. We call it spiritual amnesia, because it's such a divided lower light of a matrix, or hence the physical field, or the material world. The density of the physical plane all of a sudden creates a falling away of forgetting who you are, forgetting that who you came from. And like he said, we were divided from our hearts, and then we were divided from who breathed life into us. How the story of the knowledge of the breathing within us, the breath that we were filled with, which comes from Sophia, who would come down, intervene in this, because before this, they were just physical bodies. Until she breathed, they became living souls in their story. The God couldn't do it, he didn't have that power, right? And this goes even deeper into what they said. And the glory fled from them. So the separation is in it, and entered into great, which had forth not from the eon which we had come forth. So the amnesia continues to be separated from who they are, is what this is saying. The amnesia, when he in his wrath he separated them, because in the story Adam and Eve are not following, right? They got kicked out of the regular Genesis, they got kicked out of the garden. They were stripped and kicked out of the garden, right? They got stripped out of the garden and kicked out, booted out of the garden. And that's the story we're told. In this story, they were kicked out of the garden not because they were sinning and did wrong. It's because they were waking up, because the apple or the serpent represents the knowledge, wise as a serpent. Sophia, wisdom is called in Proverbs. What? It's called a her. Sophia, feminine aspect, comes down, breathes life into him. But now he, in his anger and his wrath, he's starting to separate them. This is where I even see this is what you would call the first of the separation, or the divide and conquer mentality of this lower level, which we seen being done politically and militarily all the time. Divide and conquer keeps a unity of oneness and keeps a division going, which we even see very heavily now, right now. So when we look at this, not from the eon, not from the higher state of light they came from. An eon is a higher state of light and consciousness. We are the light which we had come forth, I and Eve your mother, but in knowledge enter into the seed of a great eons. For this reason I am myself have called you by the name of the man who is the seed of the great generation from whom it comes. After those days, the eternal knowledge of God, of truth, withdrew from me, separation again, and your mother. And this is the amnesia state of being in the physical plane, not remembering who you really are. You start taking on a materialistic, but you're really light from a higher eon that's been fractured and fragmented and trapped into a physical plane or physical body. He said it was withdrawing. The knowledge was withdrawing from them and your mother. Since that time, we've learned from dead things like men. When we recognize God who had created us, for we were not strangers to his powers, for we served him in fear and slavery. And after those things, we became darkened in our hearts. Now I sleep in the thought of my heart. This is very heavy. I like this. Um, since that time, we learn from dead things like men, not light, not life, dead consciousness. Then we recognize God who had created us, Yaldabaoth, the material world he's talking about. For we were not strangers to his power. We observed him, for we served him in fear and slavery. And notice what we're going to go back to Yaldabaoth and that God of the Old Testament. What's he said? It's the beginning of wisdom to fear God. And I'm at a space now. I'm looking at that, and I'm even seeing, what would you need fear for? Because that fear is not love. Perfect love casts that stuff out. Come on now. Like man, when we recognize God who had created us, for we were not strangers to his power, we served him in fear and slavery. After these things, we became darkened in our hearts, and now I slept. This is why we say many times the thought in my heart of people sleeping in Christ, people being asleep, not awake, not recognizing the things that are really right in front of them, the world and the truth. and how this world's even ran is really hidden in plain sight. But when you're separated in your mind, heart, and thought, which is really saying, and becoming a slavery to the physical plane of this realm and the God of this world, which is even talked about in the Roman versions of the Bible, right? The 66 books. Um, we start seeing that the awakening and the pushing of this Old Testament God as being a tyrant slave master. Yaldabaoth. Yeah. Always wanting a blood sacrifice, always wanting you to worship him, worship him, because that's an ego based worship because you're not self sufficient in yourself, right? He said, I'm the only wise God. Well, why are you in such fear and jealous if you're the only one? Because are you jealous of an illusion, or do you really know you're not the only one? So he locked up. So in the story, he really locks up the physical plane to keep us trapped in unforgetfulness and amnesia, right? In the apocalypse of Adam. Adam, even if you remember reading earlier, Adam gave Eve saying that she's the one that brought him a word that woke him up. Way different than the Roman version, right? Come on now. The Roman version. I really like this. After these things, we became darkened in our hearts, and I slept through it. We talked about the sleep in the heart, slept in darkness. I became darkness. We became darkened in our hearts, meaning we're not seeing the truth of the light no more, and we are the light. So there's an illusionary aspect of the material plane that keeps you from your light, and people don't know. And I see it every day when you talk to people that have no clue. No, I mean, I'm talking no clue. Of course, we see a lot of people woke up. So a lot of people that are still going and doing stuff that's like, why are you doing that? Don't you know that even on a lower realm that it's kind of known that that's not good to do, and still going and getting certain things, especially at the doctor's office. Yeah. So they were darkened. This is that amnesia state that was part of the physical realm with this Yada Baal, this God of this world. The New Testament, the canonized version even mentions the God of this world. This would be Yada Baal. It's the same thing. They gave you a word to say devil and Satan, but it's really the gods are the ones. Are you telling me D? I'm telling you, the one they told you was God is really Satan. Yeah. These books are saying it. One wants to give you love and light, and the other is sitting up there telling you, "Oh, I do good and evil for my purpose. You didn't obey me, eat your children. Oh, sacrifice your daughter to me. You said the first one that came out of your house, if I blessed you, you would give me for a sacrifice. It's your daughter, a human sacrifice." Yeah, this puts puzzles together to see why things are the way they are on this level, right? And right here, I hope you can see. And I saw three men before me whose likeness was unable to recognize, since they were not the powers of the God who created us. They surpassed glory and man, saying to me, Arise, Adam, from the sleep of death, and hear about the eon and the seed of the man whom life has come, who came from you, from your Eve and your wife. So there's an awakening from a higher realm that's telling them this stuff you're seeing. No, there's an awakening of light still within you that never went no more. That divine spark is just you're in a dream state. You're a sleepy state, not recognizing you. You're seeing darkness, but you're really not darkness. And we have a shadow part of ourselves. Our subconscious is very shadowy. I like to use the word shadow. It holds everything. The subconscious doesn't even have to know the truth. It can believe anything. That's why you can start telling. That's why when you're living in lack or you're living in fear, if you change the subconscious to being brave and being abundant, It will obey it, but you have to break the subconscious. You have to bring the light into the subconscious. Arise, Adam, sleep of death. Remember, he said he was asleep and his heart was dark. And then he mentions, come from your wife. When I heard these things right here, right here, when I heard these words from a great man who were standing before me, when he signed, and I and Eve in our hearts, and the Lord, the God who created us, stood before us and said to us, Adam, why are you both sighing in your hearts? Do you not know I am the God who created you? I breathed into the spirit of the life as a living soul. Darkness came upon our eyes. Then God who created us created a son from himself and Eve from your mother. I knew sweet desire from your mother, for in the thought of mine, I knew a sweet desire for your mother. When the vigor of eternal knowledge was destroyed in us, weakness pursued us. Therefore, the days of our life became few, for I knew I had come under the authority of death. Think about that. He's talking about the amnesia and the reality of this illusion of death, being in a lower realm of death. Death, hell, and the grave, right? Death, hell, and the grave. Makes me really look at this reality that we live in as being that. Because more and more and more I look at it, the more I study history. This place don't change, man. Nothing gets righteous here because I believe it's a lower realm. And then, of course, the God that the people are worshiping in is this cat who wants to divide you, wants to take power that he doesn't have, wants to get authority that he really didn't do. He created a physical, but didn't breathe the breath of life. And the God who created us created a son, right? It said, now right here. Now then, my son, I'll put it at the top, I will reveal unto you the things that those men whom I saw before me at first revealed. Let me check something. I want to check something. Okay. I just want to make sure you guys are seeing where I'm at. I'm right here. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Seth will reveal to you the things which whose men saw, I saw before me at first revealed to me after I had completed the times of this generation, and the years of this generation had been accomplished. Then, slave, that says page 68 blank. Remember, some of these books were not complete. There's some things missing. That's why I think it says 60. For rain showers of God the Almighty will be poured forth, that he might destroy all flesh of God the Almighty, so that he might destroy all flesh from the earth on account of the things that it seeks after, along with those from the seed of men to whom pass the life of the knowledge which came from me and Eve, your mother. For they were strangers to him. Afterwards, great angels came on high clouds who will bring those men into a place where the spirit of life dwells. Glory there, and come from heaven to earth. The whole multitude of flesh will be left behind the waters. This is very heavy as you start looking at this. He's actually talking about the flood, right? And when you really go into the canonized version and another version here in the creation of the world and the Sophias, the Gospel of Sophia, and some of the creation stories in Gnosticism, is the destroying by this God of the first world by the flood, because things just didn't go his way, and he wanted the power, and because he's such a vengeful destroyer, because he is in the story. When you understand who he is, he's actually the Old Testament God begins with a Y, right? Um, Weya, I said it backwards, decode it. Um, he's really looking at things through a certain lens, and he's wanting to destroy the whole world. He's wanting just to trounce everybody. This is definitely the deluge of the destruction of the world and earth, and they're looking at it through the realm of the darkness, being in darkness, and the revealing of the lights coming, and has came. And then Seth, right? Seth, the son of Seth they were talking about. He says here, for rain showers of God will be poured forth that he might destroy all flesh. So he wants to end all flesh, right? From the earth on the account of things which he seeks after, along with those from the seed of men to whom passed the life of knowledge which came from me and Eve, your mother, for they are strangers to him. It is actually, it sounds like he's afraid of the awakening of truth more than anything else. What we got in the other stories, and this goes even into the, when you start looking at the book of Enoch and some of the other books, that they really didn't want heard, seen, or known how that would work, right? Yeah, that's I really look at that and go, wow. God will rest from his wrath. So he's got wrath on everybody. He will cast his power. So he's actually evil. He's actually got wrath because he's angry. He's jealous. He's really a low level being that doesn't know higher truth or experience the light. He's a creator. He can definitely craftsman. The word means yada Baoth, but it's a craftsman of the material world and how to lock everybody in the material world so they would worship him and give all their power to him. And then he'll take you through all this muddling, right? If you look at it, wow, destroy all flesh, from the seed of man who have passed from life from me and Adam, your mother, for they were strangers to him, right? They come from a whole different realm. Afterwards, great angels will come on high clouds who will bring those men into places where the spirit of life dwells, into a higher state of being, to the light that you are, the higher state, revelation, knowledge, and understanding. Your gnosis activated and come from heaven to earth, when the multitude of flesh will be left behind in the waters. So they're going to get drowned by this God in the story. Yeah, this Old Testament God just really wants to drown everybody because he's angry and mad. Because remember, he said, my heart doesn't always dwell on that. I repented, meaning you fall short of glory. So you made mistakes because you repented, because nobody did what you wanted them to do, which really shows me how immature and really what this one is of not higher knowledge, actually a fraud. Watch this. He shall cast upon the water, will give power to his sons and their wives by means of the ark, along with the animals, whichever he pleased, and the birds of heaven, which he called and released upon the earth. And God will say to Noah, whom the generations will call Disalion, behold, I have protected you in the ark, along with your wife, your sons, and your their wives, and their animals, and the birds of heaven, and you've called and released upon the earth. Therefore, I will give the earth to you and your sons. In kingly fashion, you will rule over them, and you and your sons. And no seed will come from you out of the men who will not stand in the presence of another glory. They will become the cloud of a great light. Those men will come and have cast forth from the knowledge of the great eons and the angels, and will stand before Noah and the eons. God will say to Noah, why have you departed from what I told you? You have created another generation that you might scorn my power. Then Noah will say, I will test it before you that my generations of men might not come from me, nor my sons in knowledge. This is very heavily, because what I'm seeing here is that Noah is connected to the demiurge, not the higher states, because the higher states of knowledge just called him out. Said, why have you departed from really what you've been told? You created another generation to scorn my power. Down a little farther. And he will, those men, bring him into a proper land and bring them a holy dwelling place that will be called by the name and dwell there 600 years in a knowledge of imperishability. And the angels of the great light will dwell with him. No foul deed will dwell in their hearts, but only the knowledge of God. Noah will divide whom the earth among his sons, right? But serve him in fear and slavery all the days of your life. Watch this. The whole earth among sons, Ham, Japheth, and Shem. He will say to them, my sons, listen to my words. Behold, I have divided the earth among you, but serve him in fear and slavery and all the days of your life. Let him not see your seed depart from the face of the Almighty. He's telling him to embrace that which doesn't serve him. That's heavy. Because he's telling them slavery. Embrace it. Serve him in fear and slavery, because that's what it is a slave master, Yada Baal in God. You think about that. That's really heavy. Um, Let me go back here. Um, we may go back here in a minute. That's really heavily when you look at this. And I'll go back and read some more. I just want to look at the story of the apocalypse of Adam and how the Gnostics take was not wanted to the powers that came from this 325 AD, the adoption of religion by a political system, Council of Nicaea, to adopt a religion that really had no borders, but they created it through their indoctrination and their political plans. Because the Council of Nicaea wasn't come together with your revelation knowledge so we can bring heaven on earth and get everybody into a flow of the spirit. It was about how we can rule the roost and stay in power. And then you have the fighting of the slavery mindset of serving God according to slavery, which makes you the lowest credible aspect of yourself and this whole thing about worship, or I call worship when you go into etymology, which we see wars when you really get back into that Old Testament, that demiurge, and find out who he is, because they're really telling you it was the Old Testament. One, they didn't look at him. They were like, blood sacrifices, killing and eating people. Yeah, you ain't the one. You feeding me some baloney and I don't buy it. There's something more than this, and we see it and we're experiencing it, right? Leaving the indoctrination, saying, we're not playing with your indoctrination. We're not taking part in your indoctrination. It's not for us or about us or through us, right? Just think about this. The whole story goes different when you see the son Seth and then the flood and Noah's part in the flood, right? And also know this is also a story of Gilgamesh, right? Gilgamesh of king, right? In the story that precedes this story of the great deluge and flood. There's all cultures have this. I actually have Choctaw, Native American Indian. They have their creation story. It wasn't set for one people, and that's the onlys. Because when you look at what we say and look at the onlys, and I look over the years of this, and especially through the Abrahamic religions, fighting, fussing, killing, murdering, capturing, human trafficking, also stealing lands, running game, thievery, a banking system from Phoenician Canaanite, which is that area that you said is yours, that's where hence and whence it comes from. All these gods that are used in this, and when you look at the story, they're Phoenician gods. From Yahweh's a Phoenician god, a storm desert god. Also, you see that the El, when you go in Genesis 1 and the creation story, it's Elohim. You go to Genesis 2, which seems like a repeated story because it's almost like, is there another creation story here in chapter 2? It's the Weah. Let's read a little bit more. Let's have to kind of think about this and share this. I was seeing how this Lord God, right, in distinguishing the higher realms, right? When you do, it's kind of like it confuse you because we were over in his Ham Japheth stuff, I think, down here more. But he told him, where are we at? Let's go. The son of Noah, remember the slavery. The seed will be pleasing before you and never and before your power. Seal it your strong hand with fear and commandment, so that the whole seed which came forth from me may be inclined away from you, and God the Almighty, it will be serve humility and the fear of knowledge, and the fear of knowledge. Others from the seed of Ham will come, 400,000 men enter into another land and sojourn with those men who came forth from a great eternal knowledge. So this looks like the other realm of them. For the shadow of their power will protect those who have sojourned with you from every evil thing and every unclean desire. From the seed of Ham and Japheth will form 12 kingdoms, and their seed also will enter in the kingdom of another people, right? Then I will take counsel who are dead, the great eons of imperishability, and they will go to Sakla, their God. So right here, Sakla, their God, is the demiurge. It's another name for the demiurge. It's another name for that whole being, the ignorant, jealous God, the one who always loves blood sacrifices, always wants to go to war and say, kill them all, kill all their animals, even kill their children. Think about it. In the story of Egypt, and we kind of got immune to this stuff. When you still wake up, you're looking at it and going, didn't in the story of in Egypt, the death angel or this will come and kill every male child under 2. And we're like, oh my God, look what God did. And now I'm looking at, yeah, look what God did. Killing children under 2 years old for what? What did they do? Calling out the Yada stuff is what we do here. Seeing how really this stuff really, really is. Let's read down a little farther where we're at. Sojourn, 1,000 men. The shadow of the power will protect those who sojourned. Sakala, their God, their God. They will go to the powers accusing the great men who are in their glory. They will say to Sakla, what is the power of those men who stood in your presence, who were taken from the seed of Ham and Japheth, who will number 400,000 men? They have been received into another eon. Eon mean a higher state, which they had come forth to help. They have overturned all the glory of your power and dominion of your hand. For the seed of Noah through his sons have done all your will, and so have all the power in the eons over which your might rules, while both of those men and the ones who are sojourners in the glory have not done your will, but they have turned aside your whole wrong or throng. Then the God of the eons will give them some of those who serve him. They will come upon the land where the great men will be, who have not been defiled, nor will be defiled by any desire, for their soul did not come from a defiled hand. It came from a great commandment of an eternal angel, fire, sulfur, and that's all cleansings. Asphalt will be cast upon those men. Fire and blinding mist will come over their eons, and the eyes of the powers of the eliminators will be darkened. The eons will not see them in those days. The great clouds of light will descend, and other clouds of light will come down upon the great eons. Abraxas, Sabalo, Gamaliel will descend and bring those men out of the fire and the wrath, and take them above the eons of the rulers of powers, and take them away of life, and take them away, eon dwelling place of the great, there with the holy angels and the eons. Men will be like those angels, for they are not strangers to them. They will work in the imperishable seed, the imperishable seed. Once again, for the third time, the illuminator of knowledge will pass by in a great glory in order to have something of the seed of Noah and the sons of Ham and Japheth, to leave himself fruit bearing trees, and he will redeem their souls from the day of death. For the whole creation that came from the dead earth will be under the authority of death. That's Sakala, that's the God, the jealous God, by those who reflect upon the knowledge of the eternal God in their hearts. Remember, their hearts were darkened, so their hearts are having light. They'll be turned into the eternal hearts. That means the light, and not perish, for they have not received spirit from the kingdom alone. They received it from a eternal angel, an illuminator. A, one will come upon that is dead of Seth, and will perform signs and wonders in order to scorn the powers of the ruler. Remember, it talks about the New Testament talks about the the principalities and powers. This is the whole archonic Yada Baal system that is organized chaos and has parameters to keep you asleep and keep you descended and keep you in your amnesia state, that you wouldn't awaken up the light who you really are. Part of the indoctrination is telling you you're a sinner and you're lost and you're no good, and you're in all the indoctrination dogma that we've seen through religion. I'm going to stop here in a minute. Well, let's read the next paragraph, though. Let's do this right here at the top. And the God and powers will be disturbed, saying, what is the, right here, what is the power of this man who is higher than we? Then we will rouse great wrath against him, and the glory will withdraw and dwell in holy houses, which has chosen for itself. And the powers will not see it with their eyes, nor will they see the eliminator either. Then they will punish the flesh of man upon whom the Holy Spirit came. Then the angels of all the generations and powers will use the name in error, asking, where did the error come from? Or where did the words of deception with all the powers were failed to discover from? Now the first kingdom says of him, he came from a spirit to heaven. He was nourished in the heavens. He received glory. And that one power came to the bosom of his mother. And thus he came to the water. Very heavy. Notice he came to his mother. Definitely mother and son and father would be definitely connected. And then the second kingdom says about him that came from the great prophet, and a bird came and took the child who was born and brought him into a high mountain. Think about a high mountain, a higher state of consciousness, a higher realm of understanding. And he came into the water. He cast him, and he came into the great prophet, the bird, and it says here, he brought him into a high mountain right here, and he was nourished by the third, by the bird of heaven. And the bird came forth there and said to him, arise, God has given glory to you. He received glory, strength, and thus came to the water. The third kingdom says of him that he came from the virgin womb. He was cast out of the city. He and his mother, he was brought to a desert place where he was nourished there, and he came and received glory, strength, and thus came to the water. Let me take a break for there now, and let me go back here. And let me stop sharing the screen. Very interesting. When you start seeing the other gospels, of that which is appeared to be the one was really not the one. Follow me. He that appeared to be the God was really Satan. God is Satan. It reminds me of the song that I did this review on, because I was doing a lot of music breakdowns and songs breakdowns, what esoteric meaning they were to a lot of songs, that had deeper meanings that you really couldn't see, right? And I started thinking about that. How we're looking at certain things a certain way, but then we see something and it changes what it means. So there's a song by, you may have heard him, definitely in the music industry, a lot of occultic stuff, a lot of hidden knowledge in the words of songs. So there's a song by Marilyn Manson. It's called Say 10. Notice what I just said. Did it sound like I said say 10 or say 10? The name of the song is actually Say 10. But notice it sounds very much like Satan. And one of the lyrics is that when you say God, I say 10. And that repeats over and over. When you say God, I say 10. I thought about that. So what I did was Zach Hubbard, who has Gematria Effect News, broke down that song in Gematria. And when you take the word say 10, God, and say 10, and say 10, right? Say 10, Satan, God, and run it through the Gematria, it, you know what the one of the Gematria numbers is for God and Satan? 10. The Gematria number for God and Satan was 10. When you look at this, and it makes more and more sense when I really start deep diving and looking at things and you start waking up. These gospels were trying to tell you something deeper, revelatory about a system and religion that was hidden, and telling you to look deeper because you are the light, and start seeing this differently, and you'll start getting another perspective. Hence the what I started with, the Oculus, right? Oculus, Dr. Oculus from the Wild Wild West a long time ago. There's a great, very esoteric Wild Wild West story about Dr. Oculus. Actually, the Wild Wild West is full of esoteric stuff when you start watching it. When you get another perspective, you put your glasses on, you get your Oculus, like the movie They Live, right? So you're seeing a perspective of the fall into the material realm was actually would cause you, was usually in the story, they said it was created by this God that he called himself, but he really was an aborted fetus type that didn't know the higher realms of light, but was jealous, had power, and was a craftsman. He created the material world in the story, but then locks you in the material world through programming and forgetfulness, amnesia. Hence, in the lower density of this lower realm, you don't know who you are, and you're not recalling who you are. similar to when I look at some of the people that are out there that we know, and you're like, I can't wake them up. And somebody had said to me a number not long ago, said, how do you wake them up? And I said, you can't wake them up. They have to stop sleeping. They have to wake up through a process of they have to wake up. There's times people are used to kind of benefit you, but to say you're going to go and I'm going to wake this cat or character up or this woman or this male really is not how it works. Don't have that power over the other soul, but there's times and purposes when you, like he said, Adam said, man, Eve gave me a word. She gave me power. She gave me wisdom that woke me up out of my sleep. He gave it to total opposite of the other side of the Roman version from 1940, 325 and after. When you start writing stuff to push agendas, which are all political based by old blue blood lines that have kept their blue blood lineage from times and times before to keep coming back in the same power. And I started thinking about this. Even this, I'm going to add to this. If you notice how the blue bloods don't interact with, and they stay even to the place of blue blooding and marrying sisters, having sex and children with sisters, even seeing birth defects. But something about the bloodline righteousness, because this goes back to Samaria, that the bloodlines reckon this, that they were the gods. And the bloodline was a connection to them for the God to keep it within blue blood families. And if you notice these elites, they don't leave the state. They keep pushing it, and we don't know. And then we kind of find out some stuff of what they do, and even how this God is always, it's got to be a blood sacrifice, whether it's just go get an innocent animal and slay it, and nothing like good, by putting the guts and taking out some inners and then letting blood burn on an altar. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. I bet that smells real good. And then it's called a sweet smelling savor. Do you see what I'm seeing? It goes in line that there's people a long time ago telling us this in recent West, and we're gonna stick to what the book is. It's Gnostic Boss. It's Apocalypse of Adam. Books you never heard of. There's if this is your first time, or if you're familiar with these books, awesome. I revelate on them because they got that kind of stuff where the New Testament and the Old Testament, you can find the needle in the haystack, but there's a lot of fluff between. These Gnostic Gospels, you can see they get to the deal. They really get to the deal of some greater esoteric understanding and revealing these things to you that make you go. It made sense to me because a few years ago, me and these three other people would have these group calls. Gentlemen, we'd have these group calls, and when we're in our group calls, we're just sitting there, hey, and then we were going through, and these were younger, 30-year-olds, a couple of the men. It was me and an older gentleman with me, but then the rest were right around that 30 something. And they started talking about some of the stuff, the Old Testament, and reading it and saying, this doesn't sound right. You're jealous. And even to the point of saying, this is like a child. One of the young men said, it's like a child. It's like a spoiled, rotten kid. Look how he's acting. Jealous, angry, doesn't get his way. I want you to be like me, but when you become like me and go rise above me, I'm gonna, I gotta screw up your communications with your Tesla tower, right? They built a high tower, right? And called it. We got to mess up we can't have you connecting into a higher being than me, because in this story, he starts realizing Adam and Eve don't come from him. The light that's in him run circles around them. And even in the story, in the other creation story, in this one, not specifically this one, the archons recognize this too. The archons are kind of like each realm of the, because this goes into the realms, the the aspects of each different realm way deeper. I mean, we're told in the regular Christian book it's heaven or hell, but this goes into the different realms and the 12, 13 realms and state of consciousness and what happens in these state of consciousnesses, and how the archons copy the higher realm with fake parts of the of their realms, and by using the archons to govern them, so that and keep you in forgetfulness, so you don't leave the state, because you don't raise your frequency and vibration to possibly be not connected to the state, a type of waking up and ascending, right? A type of maybe even rapture. We even know that was a false doctrine from the first. But when you see it into a spiritual complex, you see, oh yeah, you get rapture from lower consciousness to a higher consciousness. But this goes into the different realms, into the feminine aspect, which is dogged out by the Catholic Church. I mean, even though they use Mary, right? Even though they use Mary, they're not really teaching about how the feminine principle really works with the masculine principle, because it's a patriarchy. And it's very interesting that in the physical manifestation, how a patriarchy uh, gives you order, but then everything that comes with it's war and destruction and division. And then what I see in the physical plane with feminism, it was a hijacked version of feminine aspect, but it is part of the awakening in the fact that you have to wake up from something that seemed to be right to wake up to something that is, because it's a balance of feminine and masculine energy. And in the spiritual realm, they have to be into a coherence. The great marriage, if you want to say it's physically marriage, it is, because nuclear family, but you're going physical. But it's a nuclear marriage within you. The great marriage is marrying your heart and mind coherence, because the two become one. Even your right and left hemisphere, your heart and your mind, everything that has a duality, you take it to alchemy and coherent it, bring it into a coherence of unity and oneness, because the opposites do attract, like a battery, or like even better, even a magnet, electromagnetic energy with electric energy. Like you take two magnets, and if they're hard to keep apart, when they get together, it's a struggle to separate them. But eventually, even in relationships, you'll repel if you've got so much opposites going. That's why the two opposites have to do this magical thing. And it's not really magical. It's you have to bring a harmonization of frequency and vibration within you, that the opposites have a harmony, because they both have their place like a puzzle. Not everything's equal, because everything is different, but everything different, it has its actually nuances of why it's unique. And that would be us. This is a very good book. We may read some more. I was trying to cohort this into seeing what really was Noah. Was Noah was following and used by the demiurge, or was he from the other? And I really more lean toward the demiurge. Definitely, I'm going to look more into this book, because I kind of went over a little bit and didn't read it before. And next time I'm going to read it more. But I was looking at actually the book of Enoch, the book of Enoch, right? The book of Enoch. Let me see. Was there? Looks like I got a message from someone. I say I appreciate you for being here. Who sent me a message? So the book of Enoch. Gotta do the spelling. I'm sending a message here. Had a couple messages. Didn't notice it. Um, Definitely. It looks like Cyan now. Welcome. Glad you're here. What's up? Everything's up, but everything's what's up. What is up? What's up? What's up? Anyways, I'm just kind of seeing that, looking at that word. But very much used. My children, I use it even. What's up? What up? Or even what up? What's up? What going on? Or what? What? Different words and slangs that we use. Um, but Book of Enoch, and there's a book called the Great Supper or the Supper something, and it's actually a book with the Cathars that I'm also looking at, and you can get it and actually share it here or anywhere you would want to share it with the Cathars, definitely. I don't see who that is. Okay. Um, Top fan. Good, good. Like I said, I just started doing the YouTube live on YouTube. Got rid of Riverside. Just was a lot of stuff going on with the Riverside, not allowing me to do stuff and just not functional. I know we're really AI now, and nobody wants to have communications with humans, but organic's organic. AI is artificial. I even like to call it alien intelligence, but artificial. And there's that which is organic. People need to be in contact with human. These things have separated us. They have, and we became reliant on them, which doesn't help our thinking or remembrance. Because there's times the numbers in here, you remembered all of them in the past, even in here. If you didn't write them down, you would remember them because you would dial them so much. As the more you dial, because we used to dial, would each link you into memory by repetition, right? But yeah, that book, some other things, definitely. I will probably get on some of the current events and stuff like that, definitely, that we already did. But I wanted to come back in a place that just lets you know to do the things you need to do. Meditation, seek a higher state of being, activation of self. We're going to need this with a lot of the stuff's coming forth. We are going to have to activate our highest state of power. We do. And the things that we knew, and Danny needs to, and I'm definitely the meditation, the breathing, and all the things that will help us for those states of being and growth. I'm glad to hear we ended up doing the part of it. It's a longer book than I anticipated, but that's okay. But we kind of got an apocalypse of Adam from the Nag Hammadi Gospels, the Gnostic Gospels. My question is your gnosis activated? You guys have a great day. We will be back soon.